All right, welcome everyone to the Corpus Christi Songwriter Podcast. I'm Jules.
I'm Jimmy.
And I'm Clarissa.
Clarissa, how are you doing?
Good. How about you?
I'm doing well. Yes, we have Clarissa Serna with us, none other than Clarissa Serna with us.
That's right.
Everyone in Corpus Christi knows her name at this point. You from The Voice fame, now you're the host of your own show. By the way, How is that going? How many years have you been doing that?
I'm going on 5 years. The show went live August of 2019. Yeah, crazy. Time flies.
That's what I was thinking. I remember going on sometime, was it 2019? I believe so. I think it was in that first year.
Pre-COVID, when we were still live, 1 hour long. Those are the days. Good stuff.
So what are you up to these days? Tell us what's been going on.
I'm like a workhorse. I'm not okay sitting still. Even if I have a down day at home, I'm finding something to do. So my main gig is, of course, coastal living. Love that. Get to meet a lot of really cool people and do my thing, be myself, which is really important in your career. Side hustle of real estate. My parents are in the industry. It's something I wanted to do for a very long time. And it just kind of made sense with the network that I have to go ahead and expand my horizons a little bit. And then, of course, still doing music. I think that's just something that, although it may not be like my main squeeze right now, it's always going to be a priority in my life. And I'm finding ways to redirect it into things that bring me joy and continue to make me happy and fill that musical void that I have to fill. And then my biggest, most important job is being a mom and a wife. So I really enjoy that one the most.
That's right. You had I was going to say a baby, but I'm guessing a toddler now, right?
She's like a full-on kid. Yeah, she's 2 years and a couple months. And then I've got my 9-year-old stepson too. And they're both just incredible. Being a mom is just the coolest. I love it.
I mean, I wouldn't know about mom, but being a parent is just the coolest.
Equally as cool for both of us.
That's right. Maybe tell us how you got into music first. We'll start the music journey, and then we'll get into some of your other things. But what led you to music first and foremost?
Okay, I ramble, and oftentimes it starts with this question. So
it's
I'll try to keep it.
Jules rambles too, so
I ramble quite a bit.
Yeah,
yes, fine. I do.
Right on. The ramble gang. Okay. My story is that I am the youngest of three, and I'm 10 and 12 years younger than my brother and sister, but we all know the youngest is like attention seeking and all that good stuff. At least that cliche holds true for myself. So I've always been like an entertainer, and my personality calls me to try to bring joy to people in some way, shape, or form. I guess I always like singing. I do have memories of being in the talent show and stuff at school and trying that. But what launched it for me was my memory of getting a karaoke machine at the age of 7 years old for Christmas. And it had a cassette tape on it. And there was like a Naughty by Nature song, a George Strait song, and a Whitney Houston song, I Will Always Love You. And I learned that song better than I had already known it because my sister showed me all the cool jams. And my aunt overheard me singing, brought it to my family's attention that I could sing. And the rest is kind of history. Like from there, it took off. Once my family kind of honed in on that, I just continued to develop it and try to become a better singer. And like I said, did talent shows and things like that. And then around the age of 15, 16, my brother-in-law, who had been with my sister, they're still together, but since I was about 5, so he was a brother to me, started playing guitar and like encouraging me to write music because I wrote a lot of poetry back then. And we went from that to like getting into the gig scene, doing acoustic gigs and all that good stuff. And then we did our iconic Acoustic Tuesdays at Revolution every Tuesday for, like at least 4 years.
Oh, yes.
That set me into the world of the Jolly Ranchers, who are a really awesome band that used to come to Corpus all the time from Laredo. And they were like the band, like the rock stars. I loved it. And I ended up getting the spot of their Corpus Christi lead singer, which was really cool. And after that, was able to start my own full band, and everything else just kind of like took off from there. I've always had a very supportive family. My parents were like, we love you, we support you. There at all my gigs, as long as you go to school and get your college degree, which I did do. I followed through on that. And it just led to all these amazing opportunities of being able to use my passion and my gift and my voice to bring joy to other people. And it just feels like, I think a lot of people spend their entire lives trying to figure out what their purpose is on earth. And what is this thing where people say, find out what you love to do and get paid for it. And I was finding that at such a young age. And I just feel like that's such a huge blessing because not everybody gets those answers or that guidance so young in their lives. So grateful that I had the support and grateful that all that led to The Voice and all the other cool things that have happened since then.
Oh, that's a fantastic journey. When did you start gigging? I know you kind of mentioned it, but what age were you when you first started gigging?
So my go-to age is about 15, 16, because I definitely went through like my adolescent, like, oh, now people are paying attention to me singing. So now I'm 10 times more nervous than I ever was before. And it really took a lot of convincing, if you will, from my parents and from my brother-in-law and everyone else. They were so supportive, but it was just like, you can do this in front of people. And getting over the nerves, I still like relate this to, say, starting a real estate career or whatever I've done that's new in my life. But I remember starting like sitting down behind the music stand. We had those enormous music stands with everything printed in a binder and the laminated sheets, like way back in the day. I remember hiding behind that and sort of singing and like huddling down and slowly sort of like lowering the mic stand. And then I got a little more confident and I would kind of like sit up out of my chair sometimes. And then I kind of started dancing a little bit and vibing with the crowd. And then we just went to full on crazy Clarissa on stage. And if you've ever seen me up there, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, it's been a wild ride. I always tell everyone, I'm like, hey, if for some freak accident happened tomorrow, like don't doubt the fact that I've lived a very, very good life. I don't want to keep going, but I'm just saying it's been a good ride for sure.
For sure. And when you first started gigging, I guess you were 15, 16 years old. I did the same thing. And I found that my first real job was at Whataburger, but I was making more money at 15, 16 doing just gigs on the weekends than I was working part-time at Whataburger. And so having that money come through and not really knowing what to do with it. I mean, I would literally get my gig money and go to the CD store or whatever to fill up on CDs or movies or food or whatever. So, what did you learn from that experience? I mean, that's what I did, but what did you learn from having that kind of responsibility at such a young age?
Well, from, I guess, all my teen years, I was a little bit of a wild card, and I'm really glad, I'm glad there wasn't social media back then. But I really, really found, I guess I grew up in a sense, although I wouldn't say I was like so mature or anything, but I grew up pretty quickly and I guess really leaned into the fact that I was living a dream that I had since I was such a little girl so quickly. And looking back, I'm not even sure I appreciated it as much or understood what was happening to me at such a young age, because now that I have 15-year-old nieces and nephews, I'm like, imagine like at that age, knowing I want to be a singer when I grow up and like it already starting to happen, And so looking back, I think I'm more grateful than I ever could have been at that age. But I was just riding the wave. I was out there having a good time, socializing, networking. And before that, although I love to sing, I was still like a little timid. I don't know if it's that I'm like a people pleaser or I can be a little like, my little girl's trying to say hi. Hold on. Yes, baby. Hi. You want to come do an interview with me? Okay. You want to talk to these guys? I'm telling them about how I like to sing. Can you say hi? Hi, guys. Hi.
How's it going? Hey.
I say hi. We're talking about how mommy sings. Do you think mommy sings good? When you grow up, what do you want to be? Mommy sings. Mommy sings. Yes, she does. Do you like to sing like mommy? What's that? I don't know.
I want her ice cream.
I think Daddy's going to come get you. I know, right? It looks so good. You little rascal. Okay. Daddy! You want to stay with me? So every time I'm getting attention, all of a sudden I'm
of course. Oh, yeah.
So yeah. I think I learned a lot about like showing up and being present. Oh, okay. Love you. Okay, thank you. Sorry, guys. Mom life.
Yeah, my daughter Winter will do that all the time too. No.
Yeah, I love it. And like if somebody sees me in public and wants a photo, my son like could care less to be next to me until I'm getting attention, and then he like props himself up in the picture and he's like, "Yeah, I heard you wanted a photo with me." It's the cutest thing.
Yeah.
So what did I learn from that? I guess just I learned that my gift was really something special from God, and I allude everything back to God and my faith and having a purpose on earth and all that stuff, and just realizing voice was special and then it growing from that. So if you ask me back then compared to when you ask me now, it's always going to be that I have a voice and that's what God gave me to use on this earth. That's my special gift. But back then I thought it was only for singing and only for me to be on some big stage and selling out concerts and all this stuff, some of which I never got to do. Still time. But I realized that led to motivational speaking. That led to me being a radio personality. That led to me being a TV host, where I am continuing to use my voice to explore the goodness in our community, to reflect that, to share that, to inspire people, to make people laugh, to make people feel seen and heard and appreciated and confident. And that's like my mission in life, is just no matter where life takes me, to let everyone around me know that anything is possible. It's never too late to find your dream. We're always growing. Like follow the light, follow the way, you know, that's in front of you, the path, regardless of what you believe in, if it's God or Mother Earth or whatever. But just to listen to that message and let that little light lead you and lead the way, because what I've found that I could do with my voice is just so spectacular. And I'm really grateful to have that gift. You started with what did I learn at 15? And I'm over here all philosophical.
Hey, I mean, it led to, kind of naturally to what I wanted to ask next, which is with that voice that you found, what's the biggest lesson that you've learned from having that amplified, platform?
I want to say to be mindful of what you say and when you say it. But at the same token, I'm like notorious for like telling people way TMI and spilling all the beans of my life to like a stranger in the line at HEB. So I can't say that I censor that too much. But I guess the biggest lesson, right, from having that voice
Yes.
is that it is powerful. And sometimes I refrain from using my voice out of fear of how it may be received. And that applies to my opinions about things, even music that I've recorded and never released, because I love it up until it's done. And then I'm like, this is trash. No one's going to like this. This is so dumb. It's embarrassing. I can't put it out. So realizing that if you do it responsibly, you really have to follow your heart and just believe in yourself and be authentic to yourself and put out whatever comes from your heart, because that's always well received. And when I lean into what I doing and saying what I think people want from me versus what my heart calls me to do or what God calls me to do, there's a disconnect in life. And so it's really, whether it's your voice or whatever it may be, accepting that and capitalizing, I guess, on whatever your gift might be. So my voice, and I feel like I'm still exploring that, is very powerful. So I have to be very careful, but also brave with how I use my words. Like I went and visited my girls at Chica's Rock the other day. Chica's Rock is a really great organization from girls from like 3 to 17, and they help build confidence through music and all this stuff. And excuse me. And I was recording something for the show, but while I was there, like something in my heart told me to stop and tell those girls, like, y'all are amazing. You can be whatever you want to be in life. Like, keep rocking. Your confidence is so inspiring to me and blah, blah, blah. And like that, some girls could have rolled their eyes at that, or maybe some went home and they're like, man, Clarissa came to see us today. And I remember watching her when I was little and she was on The Voice and she said that I'm a rock star and I can do anything. And so in my head, I'm like, they probably think I'm some dumb old lady that's preaching to them. But for all I know, at least one of those girls went home with a little extra pep in her step thinking, Clarissa said I can, so I believe it. And if anybody tells me otherwise, I feel more empowered than ever to know that I can. And that's how responsibly I try to use my voice and how brave I try to be with it, because it can be scary sometimes to speak up.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm having trouble speaking up in these podcasts, having to learn to do that. So I can only imagine, having that even more amplified. But I saw Jules start percolating over here. I think he has
Yeah,
a
man.
question.
I was so this is a really interesting conversation to me, and you were a really interesting subject to me in the sense that, yeah, I mean at one point in my own sort of evolution, I realized that, like, the goal at one point was to move people with music and my own poetry and melodies and stuff like that. And then once I was doing that, I kind of like was like, well, what about just my words? Like, what about just language and points and thoughtful things to say outside of melodic
Yep.
structure, outside of songs,
Mm.
outside of that stuff? And then, the concept of like the one to many, with like you have a platform, you go on a show, and now this this sort of responsibility that you notice that you might take on with words and language and points and thoughtfulness and et cetera, right, outside of music, is now like a whole new dimension of responsibility, and also the consideration towards an audience, and how your presentation might land on them. Like, it's a whole other like metaphysical sort of examination of communication in so many different ways. But what I really want to ask you about, though, is that the initial stage fright you had in the musical domain, right? Because I mean, I wonder, one, like how old you were when you started doing, like how old were you when you I want to use the phrase get over stage fright. Maybe one doesn't ever completely get over stage fright, but
Yeah.
but in a musical domain, like how old were you when you kind of conquered that animal, right? And was there a similar animal on your way to like being confident to stand in your own space of words and messages outside of the musical domain?
Yeah. I think, like I said, I talked about sitting and hiding behind the music stand. That was at about 15, 16. And if I had to guess, I'd say it was a good part of the beginning of my 20s where I really give my Acoustic Tuesdays a lot of credit, because that I remember a lot of the gigs that I did before then. And it was like a slow and sure process, but just like the way that I was in college at the time and the way all my friends showed up for me, and just like on a Tuesday night of all nights, like people really showed up and showed out. And I just got more and more confident every week putting on a show with my brother-in-law and my other best friends, like right by my side on stage. And it was just super, super empowering. And it became like my really safe space to learn and grow and explore that. And back then, being in my early 20s and not having anyone to report to or any boss that could be watching me, no HR back then. So I was very free with my words and the silly songs. I used to have the song called The Fat Song with the PH because I'm down with that. And it was about like body confidence and all that. And I would just freestyle. And some days it was really terrible, and other days it was hilarious. But like, I was just like, the Care Bear, like how all that rainbow is like shooting from their chest. Like that's how I feel like I always have been, but particularly back then it was very free. And then, of course, as I've gotten older and come into these new professions, you're right. I do have to be a lot more mindful and think about the audience and the demographic, and are they going to complain about this? And I feel very blessed that I'm super mindful of the fact that I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and that I'm sure there's some people that are like, "Ugh, Clarissa, get over it," But I'm really lucky that like I have really great people surrounding me and my really great supporters, and like people are just so supportive and so optimistic when I speak to them. And every time I get feedback like that, it's just like reassurance that I'm on the right path, that God has led me in the right direction, that I'm following all the appropriate, pathways and stuff that are opened up for me. And it just feels like destiny. And I can't remember the second part of your question, but the first one is I would say I fell into that confidence probably around my early 20s, and it's only built from there. And then what was the second part?
Yeah, like
Radio
was
or
there like a similar sort of conquering of a fear that had to happen for you to kind of stand in your own space with words and outside of the musical domain?
I'm still working on that. Now I don't know if it's like motherhood, or be the fact that I'm in my 30s or what. So I've come to this reality of like, who cares what people think? I'm going to be myself, like more authentically. And I love that everybody's more quote unquote woke about that. But I think that's something I'm always going to have to work on, because maybe because I'm a Libra, but I'm a people pleaser. I think about everybody else's feelings. I'm very empathetic. And so sometimes I refrain or I hold back from sharing things that I may feel strongly about, unless it's like, hey, back off. That's my kid or my husband or my daughter, or my family member. but I think that's something I'm always going to work on, is finding the confidence to be unapologetically me, and to share that as much as I can when appropriate. Not to say I don't. I think I'm like 90% there, but I think that last 10% is going to be like the rest of my life's work, is just figuring out how to own who I am and not be afraid to express it.
Yeah, I mean, I love what you're saying about like authenticity and kind of following your heart throughout this conversation. When I've like spoken to like someone like a Todd May, who's a professor of philosophy out of Clemson University, he has this concept of upright thought, is what he calls it, and it's like this one, having the sincerity to seek to know, and two, having the sort of sincerity to ask the question in a serious and upright way, and all that to say is that like when it seems like the Rubik's sort of the Rosetta Stone to this approach you're talking about is one, authenticity, meaning like there's a sincerity to seek to know, combining with what I would say is like a leading with genuine curiosity.
Yes,
And I
love that.
And I think if you can take those two things, and it's like what you seem to be doing, if you can merge those two affects together, then surely the thing at the end of it you will wish to present, and you won't run into, things where it's like, oh, well, we made it this far in the process and we can't do this now. But it's like if you have that full-throated intention sort of thing going on.
Yeah, because there shouldn't be anything to apologize for. I mean, at the end of the day, if somebody's insulted by how outgoing you are, or the fact that you burp in public, or that, you, whatever it may be, then those just aren't your people. And that is one thing that's really big for me, is instead of trying to bring the people, like, instead of going to the people and try to meet them where they're at, I need to remind myself very often that I have to do me and what feels right in that moment. And the people will come, the right people will come to me for the message that I have to share, for the purpose that I have on this earth. And not everybody is like receiving and giving in my circle, and that's okay. There's so many other circles, and I cannot please everyone. I figured that part out. But at the end of the day, like, there's just always this drive in me to try to keep everybody satisfied, and to work as hard as I can, and to just live life to the fullest, because I'm so mindful of the fact that our days are numbered. And that's why I made that comment in the beginning. It's, of course I want to live to be 100, but you have to make the best of today, because you just don't know. And that's really important. And what I was trying to get to earlier, and I don't know where my ADD took me, but I go through waves, since having kids, or just in general, like in life. And I'm very present on social media, and I'm a TV personality, and I'm a, on stage personality when I sing, and I'm a mom. So I got to be on all the time. I'm putting on a show here. I'm putting on a show after when I get home, because my baby wants to play, Smash Elsa or whatever we're playing. That's our game today. And you're on. And so if that's going to pull me away from anything, I'd rather it be from social media, or from something that's a little bit less important than my career and my family and all those things. So I'm not the type to go online and be like, in case y'all didn't notice, I've been gone for a few days, but I'm back and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, like, you decide where the priorities are, and like when you need that emotional relaxation, like, it's okay to take a step back, and it doesn't make any less of you as a professional or social media person or whatever it may be, because people will always want from you, but you have to be selective before you put that energy.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Man.
I kind of wanted to go back a little bit to, you mentioned, I guess somewhere between the age of 15, 16 and then your early 20s, you started writing songs. Is that correct?
Yeah, I went through like my hardcore emo high school phase, and I don't know what that has to do with the fact that I was writing, and I guess like my parents are really strict. I couldn't do a whole lot. So like I had to be home from the party by like 10. So I had all this time in my room where, had FOMO. And so I'm in my room, like doodling, or like dancing to Hot Z95 on like super low volume, or writing poetry. So I wrote a lot of poetry back then. And the music that I wrote was primarily with my brother-in-law, because he would play along. And I personally write music best like live. So if I'm vibing with somebody and they're jamming and the words float, another Care Bear moment essentially is how I write best. And back then I still am not, but I wasn't very talented at guitar, piano. I was familiar, but just not the greatest. And so, that's what really like launched it for me was, my cousin was one of the first people, my cousin Javi. I feel like I never mentioned him because I kind of like skip over that step. It was a short period of time, but he also encouraged me and started with like Sade and a few other like cool artists. But my brother-in-law is the one that was like, you know what, Claire, like, let's do this. Let's go full throttle. And he would bring his guitar to our family functions and we would just jam and we would write music. And he basically was like my manager for the first 10 years of my music career. And I'm forever grateful for him because I don't think I would have had the guts to follow my dream without him sort of shuffling me along. So big shout out to my brother, Daniel DeLeon, for doing that. And my sister, who was home with the kids while he was doing that.
Hell yeah.
Being supportive. Yeah.
And also a shout out to your aunt. You said your aunt is the one that first noticed that you had a voice.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you think that you would have, did you know you had a voice at that time, or?
I don't know. I was 7. I was just like, and God knows what it sounded, right? Like it could have been just like a dying cow for all I know, but she saw something in it. And you know how you have some of those memories that like, you're like, do I really remember that? Or did I paint that picture because somebody told me it happened? So when my parents constantly tell me this story about me, you know, singing and that I was in the restroom, I was too shy to sing in front of them. So I went down the hall and I sat in the restroom, great acoustics. I knew that at 7 years old. But that's where I sang the song. And that happened a lot throughout those years was you had to turn around and close your eyes, or I had to be in a separate room or something, but it wasn't, like I was just this brave girl that was like, I'm a singer now. And I just took over. It definitely was something I had to adapt to because all of a sudden I was getting attention for it. Before it was just me begging for attention. But once I got it, it was really scary because you're worried about the critiques and how it'll be received and all the other silly things we worry about.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I remember being 14 and maybe even 14 years old and writing my songs for the first time and then showing them to my parents, but they couldn't hear my voice because I'd only been singing in my room quietly, so nobody heard me. So the first time I played like in front of them, I wasn't, projecting. I was just singing quietly through my throat or whatever, and nobody could hear a word that I was saying. So it took me a long time to be able to sing from here instead of, right here, but from my chest rather than my throat. And finding my voice. And so was that a process with you too?
I was just talking about this. My, some side story, my brother-in-law helped me with my career. Right. And so he started having kids with my sister, and their oldest, Roman, who's now 19, you may remember this if you saw me back then, would get up on stage and like take off his shirt and twist it around his head and dance and sing when he was like 3, 4, 5, 6, and just all of his young years. Right. And now he's 19 and he's a fantastic guitar player and singer. Like he gives me goosebumps, and he's in the process of finding his voice, starting to do gigs, getting that courage, all the scary stuff that comes with like putting yourself out there, getting on stage, trying to make a career of it. And I was just hyping him up about this too, because it just, it takes a lot. And again, I already forgot what the main question was, but it takes a lot to get over like that initial hurdle and that fear of the responsibility that comes with being on a stage with the microphone, like Jules was saying, amplified times 1,000, and everybody's got eyes on you, and it's a big deal. And so I try to be that voice for him now too, to be like, hey, you're asking me if I still get like nervous and if I'm still finding my voice. I was telling him, y'all are just totally hearing my ADD like outbreak right now.
It's perfectly fine, because my original question was
am I still finding my voice?
No, my original question was, when do you start writing songs? But I like where this went, so let's not.
Well, no. The last thing you said, I think, was, "Am I still finding my voice?" Or something to that effect.
Right. No, this is a better question. So
that's what made me think of Roman, because I was just telling him, like, when you first started me talking to Roman, I felt like you were trying to sound country because he does country, and I was like, now I feel like you're really finding your voice and owning it. And I said, I'm still learning. Like, I don't think I found what a middle voice was until probably like my 30s. So all the wailing that I did in my 20s was very irresponsible. It was all from my chest. I would lose my voice all the time because I was, screaming my lungs out every night for a gig. And now finding my middle voice is like, wow, this whole time I was like really overdoing it and I could have done this and that, but like it's taken me time to figure that out. And so I feel like in these years that I'm in now, it's learning that not everything does have to be wailing and runs and all that stuff, and that there can be like a peaceful part of my voice that people appreciate, and it doesn't all have to be a full on show. I think because of people like Billie Eilish and some of these soft singers, I'm like that. I'm good at that too. So why don't I embrace that and just let people enjoy it and not feel like I have to be like fireworks and sparks everywhere every time I'm on stage? I feel like there's pressure for that. And like, I have to play the right songs because I got to keep them dancing. No, you don't. Some people aren't there to dance.
Yeah.
They're there to just enjoy music. And that's something that stressed me out my entire career. It was always, what's your genre? What's your set list? What's going to get people on the dance floor? What's going to get people through the doors? And unfortunately, that's, the career side of it. But like, none of that really matters, because if you're doing it for your dream and your passion, like, again, your people will come. So stop trying to figure out what exactly they're looking for. Do you, and the right ones will find you.
You keep saying like your people will come, and I have to think that like, I'm a secular person, but I often think like if one who is a creative person, you must have faith that the people who like your stuff will find you. Like
absolutely.
Of any of the axioms that come with creativity, a lot of this conversation is like bringing up like Miles Davis quotes from me, one of them was, he said something like, a note is 20% the pitch or something, and 80% of the attitude of the motherfucker playing it. And then the other thing he said was something like, man, it takes you a long time to sound like yourself.
It really does. Like, to this day, I feel like I'm finding that.
So like, yeah. And it's also like in the same way, I mean, it's an ever evolving relationship you have with yourself over the course of decades of knowing yourself and becoming more comfortable with like even determining that you have, nose, throat and chest ranges
Voice
that are distinct, that you can switch between. And then and then you have a whole other reason to admire Jeff Buckley when you see the fluidity between these ranges when you listen to that dude sing,
I'll have to look him up.
But just like being physiologically comfortable and mindful enough to notice that inside of your body as you sing, it almost takes like a slowing down that if you're going to acquire that on your own, that's really the main difference I feel like between like people who are singing because they have to fill that musical need versus people who are seen as like, oh, that person can sing is just that the three voices in three areas and physiologically recognizing that and like making proper use of your diaphragm. And I just say this is like this has come up a number of times for me in the last couple of weeks with people and talking to me about things. And so but to be comfortable in that and to own your own voice and to sound like yourself and to physiologically, recognize these things and to compound all of this into a way that maybe even like as you sing, you accent certain parts of your own voice because they're quirky and identifiable to only you. Like this alchemy is probably a lifelong thing,
Totally.
And so getting to know yourself right now is just as much as the process as getting to know yourself back then. But anyway, I'm rambling now, but I think it's all
I love it.
That,
It is. I feel like, again, some people at whatever stage in their lives, 20s, 30s, 60s, 70s, 80s, never get a chance to figure out what lights that fire inside of them. And I feel like musicians and artists are just so lucky because it's just, it's indescribable, and it is like a transcendental experience because it's all your chakras, it's all the energy, and it's just flowing. And we all have like that one song that takes us there, that one group of musicians that like really gets you to that point, and it's absolute magic. And I just feel like, for people who don't have kids, And everybody tells you, oh, you never know true love until you have kids. You'll know your heart's going to burst. And you're like, yeah, I can imagine. And then you have them and you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. It's the greatest thing ever. No one could ever write it down or help you understand it. You just have to get there and feel it. And I feel like that's what music is for me. I'm a mother to music. It's in my heart. It runs through my veins. And there's been parts of my life, if y'all lose me, because my iPad is about to die, I'll get you guys on my phone. There's a part of me that as I've developed into the person I am today has a fear of like, well, what'll people think if I'm not gigging 3 times a weekend? What are they going to think of me? Am I a loser because I haven't put out an original song on the internet in 5 years? Does that make me a has-been? People, do you still do music? And I'm like, yes, you didn't see me post. I was just at Cinnamon Shore last week, and it's like this concept of like, I need to stay relevant in this industry for people to respect and appreciate me. And battling with that mindset and understanding that this isn't about anybody else or what they think of you or any of that. If this means enough to me, I'm going to find a way to keep it in my world and in my life. And I'm grateful that I have a very supportive husband and family that's like, yes, you have a gig, like we'll watch the kids, or he'll bring them along and watch them and they dance and have a good time themselves. So blessed to be able to align those two and be okay with the fact that like the gig world, the gig life 3 times, 4 times a week was a season. And this is a different season. And this season says that I can be a badass mom. I can be a great TV host. I can be an awesome realtor and sister and mom and all those things, and still find a way to fill that music void that I have to fill, which will always be there. So I'll do a gig when it feels right and when it's appropriate, but I'm not going to inconvenience myself to get to any type of threshold that I think is going to impress anyone else, because it's just not about that. So now I shift to like, let me go ahead and put out some original music. I have all these songs I've been sitting on. Well, let me put one out. So that's my focus now. Let me just start to feel comfortable writing again. Let me try to find maybe a new person that I have really great musical energy with. And like, let that be my focus instead of sitting over here wondering if people still think I'm a singer because because I'm not doing as many gigs as I used to or whatever. I'm not retired. I don't think musicians retire. We're here for the long haul. And that's another struggle. And I feel like it's important to verbalize that, because I think everyone goes through that in their creative space. Is like, I haven't put out an amazing painting in a long time. What will people think of me? I haven't done a movie. I haven't done a play in months. What are people going to think of me? I'm no longer a thespian because I haven't been on stage. And that's not true, because that name tag is tattooed on your heart. It's not going anywhere. You have nothing to prove to anybody. You just keep filling that space in your heart with what belongs there. And for us, that's music.
Oh, yeah. I feel that deeply, because I struggle with that
big time,
constantly. I mean, just the other day I was thinking I haven't released a solo record since 2018, I think it was. So like trying to dive into that, how that makes me feel. It's just it's a journey, but like you said, there's no time peg on it. You do it when you're ready.
Totally. And I might be that old lady that you see at docks on the patio singing when I'm 75, and you better enjoy yourself, because I will be. Whatever it takes. Like, if that feels good at that age, I'll be doing it, and ain't no shame in my game. That's what makes me happy.
Oh yeah. I first fell in love with songwriters and music going to places like Surf Club or to Blackbeard's on the beach and seeing people like Bobby Carter, who played there nightly at Blackbeard's, and he was happy. You could just tell he was happy. And I'm like, if I could make a living playing music like him, and I don't care about like having the next hit song or anything, but if I could just make a living playing music like him and be happy like him, then to me that equals making it, right? So absolutely.
Yep. Yeah, it's so true. And it's so easy to get sidetracked, especially with social media, and just we spend so much time watching other people fulfill their dreams and their passions or put on a show. I mean, a lot of it is a show, most of it is. But you compare yourself and you're like, gosh, like this person's able to do it all and then some, and then they're doing, YouTube videos, and then they're doing, gigs, and they're recording live music, and they're everywhere, man. They're doing all these, and it's just so easy to like, get a chip on your shoulder and feel like you're not doing enough, or you're not good enough, or you could, whatever. I need to write better music. I'm not a good songwriter. So which one are you going to put out the music, or are you going to believe you're a terrible songwriter and never put it out, which is kind of the bucket I've been in. But at the end of the day, like, who gives a damn? Like, put the song out.
And then there were two.
Who gives a damn? Put the song out, and then she bails. No,
And she
her iPad died. I'm sure she'll be back shortly.
I was gonna say, man, this is why you got to have like EPs in your back pocket, or a couple singles that you just hoard and stash. And then when you start getting the antsy, sort of songwriter anxiety, I'm like, am I still relevant? Am I still, when you start to feel that anxiety creep up, you're like, surprise, here's like a single, or here's, and I don't know, that seems to work for me, but I also like think there's a certain, like, I think it takes some practice to get over something called, like, I call it anyway, like media incontinence.
Yeah.
It's like you're just so goddamn antsy to share, like you have to, and so like I think we all go through this at some point, and maybe some of us quell that urge by like just showing like our songs to our friends or something, or having a little unlisted YouTube link of stuff at times, and I do that, and so like oftentimes by the time I release something, my friends are like, "Wait a second, you never released that?"
Right. Yeah. No, for me, it's all SoundCloud playlists right now of all the voice memo demos that I have that I just send to the trusted few. And no, I've got tons of songs that I should be recording, but they've just been piling up, and I've been focusing on Yash and Yimi, which is amazing. And I love Yash and Yimi, but you pick and choose, like, ooh, this is a Yash and Yimi song, or this one isn't, and so it's that oh my God, my cat is driving me crazy. Compartmentalizing of it all, right? So
we have Clarissa again.
Clarissa's back.
Did y'all ever see that video of me with the Blue Angels and I kept passing out? It's on YouTube.
Yes.
And you hit that G-force and they teach you like the hick maneuver for 45 seconds before you go in. Like, who's going to remember that? And my dude was just getting a kick out of me passing out. But so the G-force hits you and all the blood leaves like your head basically. And that's why you fall asleep. But if you watch the video, I look like a dying chicken. Like my head just wobbles and I go down. And then I go, pop up like that dude that passed out on the couch at the party, and he's just cracking up at me. And that's how I felt right now. So I'm back. Hi.
Hey, welcome back.
Hello.
Leave it to me not to charge my devices before an important podcast.
No, Jules and I had a very deep conversation just now. I haven't.
Dang, I missed it.
But where were we?
Oh, I forgot now. We were on. Oh, I think just like the writing music and the need, like, I guess not the validation, but I think also the validation, because I hadn't put out anything in so long. I need people to reassure me that I'm a good musician and that I have a purpose and that my voice means something. No, I don't. But like, you're always seeking that, and that's the give and take of life, I guess, because I know we're not the only ones. But again, it's cool that y'all have this podcast. It's cool to have these conversations, because hopefully people are listening and shaking their head like, yes, I can relate to that. Like, and you're not alone. We all feel that way. Whatever your calling is, it's not there to fulfill anybody else but you. And if it does, in the meantime, while you're doing it and while you're following your heart, then more power to you.
It's the two faces of the artist, because of course that's the truth. That should be the authentic truth. Is it's nothing should matter about you, right? And what it means to you. But of course, the other side of it is just as powerful to your ego, to your psyche, to everything else. So it's trying to delve through that and I don't know, find yourself on the other side.
Yeah. I mean, you are still somebody on a stage, play for me, puppet. Like, you are there to entertain, but it's just important to find that balance as an entertainer in any field of how much of what they're looking for are you going to prioritize? I guess is a good way to word it, because the only thing that matters is you and what fills your heart. I just feel like I've wasted so much time in my life worrying about what other people think and being insecure about my big nose or my ears or my hair, or the way I sing or the way I dress or whatever, that it's like the older you get, the more you don't give an F. And if only I could have assumed that mentality when I was 15, I would have had so much more confidence to do God knows what or how much more than I've done. But everything happens at its proper pace. And as long as you follow that light, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. So I live with that mentality and I trust it. And I try not to look back with any, people with the voice. They're like, what if you had chosen, Adam instead of Shakira? Or if you could have, would you? And I'm like, no, because my time on there lived itself out. And then I came home and years later found the love of my life and created this beautiful family that I've only dreamed of when I was younger. And so, no, I wouldn't, because that would have changed the entire course of my life. I'm very mindful of that. And so I'm very, very happy with where I am and what my voice has actually done for myself and for others. That's really cool. I mean, it's a pretty sweet gig. And I'm proud of you guys too for following your dreams and for staying true to yourselves and for continuing to grow as human beings, as parents, as friends, siblings, whatever it may be, in your professional careers, and making sure that music is still a priority. Because it definitely, going into the voice thing, like there are a lot of people that I was with on that show that I, for a fact, were 20,000 times more talented than myself. Yeah, I shouldn't say that, but I did. That looks like they got off the voice and then they don't do music anymore at all. And it kind of like breaks my heart, because I'll go look and I'm like, nothing, not even like a little gig here and there. Because it's like a fire in you. So I guess did that just put it out? Did you get disheartened because you didn't make it? Did life happen and it just took a total backseat? It makes me sad, because that is something that brings people so much joy and nobody can replace that. And so it's so important to be able to have special things like that for yourself, so that your cup is full enough to fill everybody else's in your day-to-day, your 9 to 5, or as a parent. It's important. It's so important.
For sure. And you brought up the voice, and it would be reckless of us not to talk about it for a second. So to avoid we all know how you got there, right? Most of us anyway, but in general, I would like to know what you carry with you from that experience.
There was so much growth for me at that time. I was 27 years old. That was 10 years ago, by the way, like just this past February 24th, I think. Wild.
Yeah, legitimately, you were on The Voice when we started Corpus Christi Songwriters.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Gosh, you guys, y'all are kicking butt. I'm so proud of y'all. And thank you for starting that, because we needed this community, and it's really special to have you guys leading the way. And now we have like our own little festival, giving South by Southwest vibes. I love it. My takeaway from that, there's a lot of emotional and physical growth. I was 27. It was a big moment in my life where I was questioning, like, do I just need to hang up the towel with music? Do I need to grow up and get a real job? Finger quotes. All these things were going through my mind. And I remember I was reading this book called E Squared, and it was about the law of attraction. And then I was also like, I'm a spiritual person. So I was aligning those two. I was talking to God and the universe at the same time. And that all led to my 4-chair turn, which I totally give to God. But it was the exact sign I needed, because they say don't make a deal with God, but I tried. It was also my practice in that book. E Squared is like 9, what would you call it? Like activities or assignments to practice the law of attraction in your daily life so that you're more connected. I highly recommend. Very cool, quick read. So that's what got me that 4-chair turn. And the whole experience is wild. There was so much growth. That was probably like the only trip I've ever been on completely on my own, away from everyone. That was really like scary. And that was a big moment of like finding myself and owning who I was. But honestly, more than the coaches, more than the experience, more than anything else, the community that we had, because there were hundreds of us stuck in a hotel, like legitimately sequestered in a hotel, trying to pretend we're in some adult rock camp or something. I learned from my peers. I learned about their dreams. I learned about the magic of having that many people with the same interests in one place, and the way that you can just vibe. Like our jam sessions at that hotel were magical. We did some praise and worship, some late night sessions around the fire. We did every genre you could think of, and just the most magical, like 72-part harmonies, because there were so many of us there. But I think it was just that there's room for all of us, and that we all have a special spark, and every single spark is different. So we're not competing with each other. We are lifting the culture all together. We're raising the sea level. And I think that's really cool to be able to like fill the world with the magic that is music versus all the other crap that we're dealing with, you know? So we're able to like put a little Disney sparkle on life for people. And it was special to like get to know so many other people who could align with that, because I didn't have really strong relationships with so many other musicians at the time. Not like that, where you're staying in a hotel together for so long. So yeah, that's the takeaway. Not what people want to hear, but yeah, more than the show. I mean, because it's a show, it's a production. There's a lot of behind the scenes. It's very TV cliche stuff that you only know when you're there. And now that I'm in the industry, I get it, because, you know, my example is always like the part where you see them like rubbing their hands in the room and they're so nervous because they're about to go on. I filmed that scene like a week before I actually did my audition. Don't get me wrong, I was still sweating, but it didn't look that cute. I was like jumping up and down and doing cartwheels and like trying to get the nerves out. It was crazy. It was crazy. Hell of a ride, but man, it's been a good one. I'm grateful.
Hell yeah. And you mentioned now that you're sitting on a trove, maybe not a trove, but a pile of songs that you want to release, or you're going to start working. Yeah.
I have 3 that are recorded that may never see the light of day. Okay, I have one project. I think I can talk about it. I was going to say is with the Corpus Christi Rodeo, and that's a project I'm very, very excited beyond my national anthem that you can hear me singing every year at the rodeo. That's been such a blessing. But yeah, a couple that I'm like, I don't know if they'll see the light of day. But there's one, and I'm gonna manifest it and put it out there. It's called Unapologetically, and I wrote it before my daughter was born. That was 2 years ago. And I've kind of worked on a few different versions of it, and I have a version of it in the works. We're probably like 70% done. That will be out in the next couple months. So that's going to be like my little toes in the water, I guess, with like releasing music again. And I hope that, I want to say like the people's response, but really it shouldn't matter. Like, I hope that my feeling in my heart when I do put that out is a good sense of accomplishment that inspires me to feel the confidence to put out more, and to make sure that I continue to prioritize that, because it's hard to make time for the studio when you have a 2-year-old and a day job and a side hustle. It's gonna happen.
100%.
You know what's up. You know what's up. Yeah. But so yeah, Jules, new music will come.
Oh, hell yeah. Jules, is it time for another philosophical question before
well, I mean, I don't know that I have like, well, I mean, what comes up for me a little bit is like Sartre and Gilles Deleuze, sort of like, we know not what a body can do. You know, we must experiment to find out, you know, what we can be. And part of that is, you know, as you were talking about the seasons of life, where like, you know, you have these different seasons where you can be different things, and these things aren't necessarily like, I mean, it's almost like you speak to like the trappings of identity, you know, and how identity is kind of limiting insofar as like, if you are this thing, then it also implies that you are not dialectically this other thing, you know. So I think it's really cool how like your overall sort of approach to life encourages this sort of like way of being multiple things, like you contain multitudes sort of thing, you know, and that, you know, in ways like I feel like maybe that comes with like an overall diversification of what you do with media, whereas before you were purely singing, you took that to the next level, and then at some point you're like, how do I transform this by using just words? And so now there's like this from 2D to 3D sort of thing that happens where your world gets larger, you know, and the context of your thinking and your audience and everything expands with that. So yeah, I think that like, you know, it's a really cool thing that you've spoken of today, as far as the balance between different seasons in your life, and also being these different things at different times. And the term that kind of, you know, Gilles Deleuze has this term called he calls it about like it's like a type of grass. He calls it a rhizome. Says things are rhizomatic, and that like they're ever expanding. And if you were to take a look at, you know, the middle or the ends, you would not tell if that is where it began or if that is where it ended. It's just one continuous piece of grass. And so to think of us, think of as humans, you know, sort of rhizomatically, like we are expansive and we're not like any one given thing. And it's just been really inspiring talking to you, you know, so thank you.
I love it. What's inspiring talking? I like your philosophical input. I like that you can take it like deeper than I don't even realize I'm talking about something. And then you like identify it and I'm like, oh yeah, that's deep. But it is true because I've struggled with that. Like I have my eggs in a lot of baskets and everybody's like, you can't be great at everything if you're focused on too much, right? And I struggle with that too because I'm like, well, maybe I just need to narrow it down and pick one and screw the rest and hope that I can just be really badass at this one thing. But no, and I don't have to. And I can be, no one's 100% perfect at anything. But as long as I continue to be able to give everything my all, I can have as many baskets as I want and I'll keep, you know, producing the eggs. If I run out of eggs, that's when I start to pick which baskets are more important. And I can enjoy that little season of slowing down, which I've done. I think ever since COVID, it was like, you know, having the baby, I had always wanted to kind of settle down on the gigs and get out of the bar scene and more into like daytime festivals, originals, releasing music, that kind of stuff. And like, because of COVID and what happened with all that, and then having a baby, like my life did shift in that direction and it's beautiful. And you know, now I've got the TV thing and that's great. A really awesome experience. I'm so grateful. Like most people clock in and absolutely despise their jobs. I have a very cool job. Yes, you can have as many baskets as you want and you can continue to expand. And I love seeing those posts that are like, you know, J.R. Tolkien didn't write or didn't get published till this age, and Oprah Winfrey didn't do it till this age, and Vera Wang didn't design her first dress until this age. And I love to see that because a lot of them were in their late 30s, their 40s, their 50s. And whatever they did before then, no one really cares about. But guess what? Now they're in the spotlight. And that's like the 50th version of them that they met, you know? So we're always blooming. And every season you come back a little bit brighter, a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger. So yeah, I really enjoyed this conversation, guys. I was able to like look inward a little bit and reflect on things and verbalize things that constantly flow through my mind. And it's really nice. I really enjoyed this with you guys.
Oh, we've enjoyed it too.
Yeah.
It feels like a natural ending. So should I ask the question, Jules?
Sure.
Uh-oh.
All right. Wait, it's, have you seen the movie Almost Famous?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the almost famous question we ask everybody that's on the podcast. Jules has his larger than life philosophical questions, and then I have the most generic, mundane question of all time. But it always delivers like my favorite answers, and so
I'm nervous. Okay,
Clarissa Serna, what do you love about music?
What do I love about music? The way that it brings us all together. It's just universal. It's all of our heartbeat together. And I just think it's absolute magic.
Like Care Bears.
Yeah, the freaking Care Bears. I've honestly wanted to say Care Bears more than I actually said it in this conversation because it kept coming up. But it's just like a good visual of what I've been trying to express is just like our hearts are so powerful and there's just energy, you know, exploding from us at all times. And is that good energy or bad or uncertain or confident? Is it energy that suits your passion? And I hope that everybody finds a way to say yes to that.
Beautiful.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Clarissa.
For having me. Absolutely. Thank you guys. God bless y'all. And if you're listening, follow your dreams. You can do it, whatever it is. I got your back.
Amen. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Adios, amigos.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.